Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a 3 versus 3 on Sainte-Mère-Église, and in this one I'm going to be playing with the 21st Panzer Division. On my team today I have Mishka Forever and Blackout, who are going to be playing the 2nd Panzer and Panzer Lehr, and then on the opposing side we have Schmitty, De and the Seagull Flies, who are going to be playing the 1st SSB, Demi Brigade SAS and Guards Armoured respectively. So as you may notice at the start of the game here, as I'm deploying my troops, I am very indecisive about what I want to take. I deleted and replaced my units multiple times because I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to tackle the town. As you may have noticed on our team, we are 3 Panzer divisions, so neither of our divisions really work well in the town, and therefore I took on that responsibility and tried to work around what I had in order to make it happen. So in my division, one thing to note is that I don't have any command infantry in phase A, so I have to rely on the SBW 223s, and that can get pretty awkward indeed, especially in towns, because I can't hide my command infantry for once, or for one, and then the other thing is that armoured cars can get killed very easily by infantry AT, especially things like Piats or bazookas, assuming the Piats hit, of course. But yeah, the SBW 223 is actually pretty difficult to keep alive in the town. Also, because it has no veterancy, the command radius is also pretty small as well, which encourages you to put your command unit closer to the enemy, and then that causes you issues as well. Either way, I end up deciding on the U304s, 2 of these with Panzer Grenadiers. That's going to be my mainline infantry. I've got an SBW 222 that's going to drop off some recon on the left side of the town, and then I've got a Vielfachwerfer here, and of course the SBW 223. On the further right side we have the Brumba, and we also have another SBW 222 with recon. Now the idea of that Brumba on the right side was quite simply just to hold the 50-50 on the right side of the town, because I'm not going to be contesting this area with any infantry, because I know if I get into one of these buildings and there's infantry on the other side, it's likely they're going to win the 100 meter range engagement because of SSB and Demi Brigade SAS. So I decided to go for the Brumba and basically just hold this position right here, which would then allow me to fire into the town in multiple locations and hold back any infantry that tried to get greedy. So off we go. SBW 223 is just going to fast move and hide behind this building. Then we got the U304s coming up as well. This 222 on the left side is going to be engaging some of Schmitty's infantry. I managed to kill off the CMP before it unloads, so a little bit of a mistake there by Schmitty, allowing that to happen. But Vielfachwerfer is going to open up onto the likely location where a lot of this infantry is going to unload. This 222 also takes out a CMP on the right side, killing off another infantry squad, and my 222 here killed off a Willys MMG, which was nice. So U304 and Panzergrens pinning down the Commando 6 squad really quickly with the help of the Vielfachwerfer. Now I just got to find out where the command is and see if I can pin that down so that I can surrender a lot of this infantry. Fortunately for me, there was some tank busters in the town. They managed to take out my U304. But the Vielfachwerfer did a great job there of forcing Schmitty to fall back with a lot of his forces. But one thing you may have noticed is that my U304 was not really being affected that much by the Vielfachwerfer. And that's because Vielfachwerfers actually have really low HE. And their rockets aren't actually that strong. They're strong enough to pin down infantry, but not so strong to take out half-tracks and armoured cars. So what you can do is use a Vielfachwerfer to basically attack an area. It'll pin down any infantry that are there, but then you can just drive your half-tracks and so on straight through it. Now Schmitty did a good job of having his tank busters in awkward positions for me, and you can see here, even with me reversing my SBW 222, it didn't matter because the tank busters eventually hit their Piats and had plenty of time to do so. But I'm in a relatively okay position. Both of my Panzergrenadiers are still alive. The SBW-223 is still alive, and that's really all that matters. Losing the SBW-222 on the left side is kind of awkward, but I was convinced I'd probably lose it to this Jagdpanzer anyway. So more Panzergrenadiers are on their way. I've also got a second Vielfachwerfer coming up. And one thing that is brilliant about these Vielfachwerfers is they have like 2 volleys worth of 48 rockets. So not only do they fire like each volley for a very long time, but they have enough ammunition to do it twice, and that is just absolutely fantastic. One weakness of the Vielfachwerfer is that they are short range. They only have 1,000 meter range, which can allow them to get caught out quite often, and therefore counter battery as well. So that's one way you can deal with Vielfachwerfers. In this case, Schmidty didn't counter battery my Vielfachwerfers, which meant they could just fire relatively accurately onto concentrated areas of ground, allowing me to pin down infantry and therefore make my own ground. So now you can see my Brummbär trying to pick its target. It can either fire at this commando assault or this commando assault further right. Unfortunately, the aim time on the Brummbär isn't fantastic, so you can see that taking effect there. U-304, I think, gets grenaded by the commando assault squad, which wasn't ideal. But I've got more infantry here now that are going to continue on forwards. But I do need to be very careful about how I engage with Panzergrenadiers, because it's just very awkward for me to fight at 100 meter range. So what I want to do is try and keep them at like 200 to 300 meter range wherever possible, and then the Panzergrenadiers will be a lot more successful. Now on this left side, U-304 is being harassed by the Jagdpanzer. At max range, that Jagdpanzer was really suffering to actually hit something. But with the pressure being on me in the centre, here go the Vielfachwerfers, just going to try and pin things down and then make some ground with the Panzergrenadiers. Across the board at the moment, we are losing territory. The enemies do have +1 on the board. On this right side, Schmidty is going to push me with a Sherman 2DD. My Brummbär, fortunately though, is going to be able to just sort of reverse away from that engagement, showing its front armour, and that's going to allow the Brummbär to escape, because the penetration of a Sherman 2 isn't really high enough to successfully penetrate the Brummbär, which is nice. Also, he's actually got to hit the mark, because that's lacking command. Centaur 4 is sort of following up that Sherman, but that's currently being hit very hard by this Pak 40, very nicely placed by Mishka. I'm bringing up my own Pak 43 to control the right side. And as you can see up here, Panzergrenadiers did manage to surrender some of the infantry since the commando leader was pinned down. Now I was actually really sort of bemused as to why that commando leader, when it was in 100 meter range, did not surrender. I'm assuming it's because the Humber Mark III was nearby and wasn't fully pinned down. But either way, managed to get these Panzergrenadiers into a decent position. These Panzergrenadiers are now moving back up as well, and you can see my Vielfachwerfer trying to get closer as well. Commando tank buses go down. My Vielfachwerfer currently under fire here from the Sherman 2. Unfortunately, my Pak 43 was just out of line of sight, which was really awkward. I'm also going to have to be careful that my 222 doesn't engage the Sherman 2 for too long, because I didn't want to lose that unnecessarily when it's actually really good close range fire support against things like this commando assaults. So I do lose both of my low health Panzergrenadiers eventually to enemy infantry, but the 223 cleans up the commando assaults, and you can see that for every death I'm taking so far, I am definitely trading quite well. I was lucky to have this Vielfachwerfer still alive, but Schmidty's now going to push forwards with his Sherman 2 a bit more. Mishka's slowly creeping around with the Pak 40, and I'm just waiting for that to find the kill so that I can get my Brummbär back into position and put more pressure into the town. Now ideally here, every time I see reinforcements coming in from Schmidty, I want to be able to hit them with the Vielfachwerfer. That is the idea anyway. Then I can push through the Vielfachwerfer fire with my 222s and make loads of stuff surrender. That would be the perfect scenario. But in this case, it takes the Vielfachwerfer quite a while to reload. Fortunately, on the right side in the meantime, though, the Pak 40 does kill off the Sherman 2, so that relieves pressure on that side. Panzergrenadiers are opening up onto these Commando Fusilier Marines. 222s engaging the Staghound AA. But I don't want to engage them unnecessarily. I want to use this 222 to kill infantry. Tank busters once again in a very suspect position. Does manage to pick off one of my U304s, unfortunately. These Panzergrenadiers, I drop them out into a building, but they come under a lot of fire, so I actually reload them back into the U304 to reposition them. And that's actually a really good tip for, say if you unload and you start to take a lot of morale damage, and you're not really happy with where you place them, just reload them into the half-track itself. As long as the half-track isn't in direct danger, you should be absolutely fine. But here in this case, you can see my Panzergrenadiers do take a lot of damage from the infantry engagements, but the Vielfachwerfer is going to come in here and try and save the day. On the right flank, 223 is going to get bailed by the Seagull flies. Pak 40 though does manage to clean up the AT gun before the 223 goes down. But you can see here that these Fusilier Marines, they are being pinned and forced to fall back because of the Vielfachwerfer. I'm just going to let that continue to fire. 222 isn't really too concerned, can push into that fire as well. We're losing a little bit of ground on the left side, but Blackout is stabilising. Just got to try and push my way through this town, make us some ground, and also Mishka's doing relatively well on my right flank, so we've got that hope going for us. This Pak 40 was absolutely godlike on my right flank. It was really, really useful. Managed to take out some recon infantry, that was very nice, but out of nowhere, another tank buster squad arrives. Really, really irritating to play against those tank buster squads. Shmeddy just had them in those really awkward positions for me. I would have never expected the tank buster squad to be here, and therefore it took out my 222. Got this Vielfachwerfer though ready to fire away. That's going to try and pin down those tank busters that we just had to deal with. Brimbar's still sitting in the same location more or less. That's going to open up onto these commando assaults. But more infantry is arriving, and this is one good thing about not buying or bringing so much command infantry, as you have more Panzergrenadier availability in phase A and B. So yeah, Panzergrenadiers now going to arrive. Got them there to bolster my numbers against Shmeddy's forces, and you can see I did manage to take out the tank busters there, and I've now taken out the Commando Fusilier Marines. I took out the Commando Support Squad, just using the range, ideal range, to get an advantage. So that's like 4 squads of infantry just killed off, just like that. And the reason a lot of them were quite low health was because of the Vielfachwerfers. Here I'm just going to try and get the Panzergrenadier into a location whereby I can kill off this Staghound AA. And now I'm doing the perfect Vielfachwerfer strike, hitting Shmeddy's reinforcements just as they come in, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Here what I'm going to do, unload the Panzergrenadiers. U304 unfortunately gets hit by the Piat though, from the Royal Marines. If that hadn't happened, then my Panzergrenadier and U304 probably could have just reloaded and then chased up the road and made loads of stuff surrender. From this side, U304 baits out the tank busters. Panzergren's going to open up onto them with the double machine gun, take them out nice and easy. Boyd to Sherman has now arrived in the centre. Going to be trying to use that to take on some of Shmeddy's armour, as well as cut down a lot of this infantry. These Shermans are just like really, really good fire support, so that's exactly what I intended to use it for. Also, I've got direct line of sight onto this 3-inch mortar. One thing that was odd though was that my Boyd to Sherman chose not to use its main gun against the 3-inch mortar, and I ended up taking a couple shots from Shmeddy's Centaur force. Either way, Vielfachwerfer ready to open up once again. Going to be hitting Commando supports. We've got the Commando Royal Marines there, Commando Fusiliers Marines. And one thing that Schmidty did well is kept his command hidden. You can see all of these are 3-star, which means there's clearly command nearby. I was just hoping every time that I charged forwards with the U-304 that I'd ended up pinning down the enemy command by accident. But yeah, here you can definitely see that that is not the case. And these Royal Marines, well, they're going to be able to get a Piet shot off in between them getting stunned, and that's going to allow them to kill the U-304 and surrender that. This U-304 gets killed by a Centaur, and that push didn't go exactly the plan, quite simply because the command infantry in the town kept all of those units from surrendering. It could have been a very different story indeed. So now getting 222s back into positions to help out take on the Commando Royal Marines and Fusilier Marines. Rumbar is taking some bouncing shots as Beuter Sherman's going to move forwards and take a shot as well. You can see I am being hit by quite a lot of tanks here now. Thankfully, because this Fusilier Marine squad and the Commando 6 squad doesn't have any AT, I'm able to use these 222s quite aggressively alongside the Aufkläder and the Panzer Grenadiers. And now I've picked up a quite nice position in this town. Also on my right flank, Mishka has pushed through pretty damn hard, so that's also really helpful. Just bringing up more reinforcements now, getting more Beuter Shermans in, getting the 232s in, got more Panzergrens on the way. Ideally at this point I want to try and secure the far side of the town and allow me to push further into enemy territory. Another Commando Royal Marine squad goes down. Panzergrens were trading relatively efficiently throughout this game. You see like Commando supports and Commando Royal Marines and stuff, like they cost 30 points. Panzergrens cost 35. Now the 21st Panzer infantry isn't very efficient, but if you can trade 1 for 1, for the most part that's okay, because you generally rely on your autocannon vehicles anyway, as well as your heavier support like the Brummbach and the Beuter Sherman. There's also the Panzerhaubitze, but I didn't actually bring one of those in this game. And the Pak 40 here does manage to take out the Centaur, and with a lot of these units being pinned down, I'm able to get this U-304 quite far to the top side of the town. I'm just going to drop off some Pioneers. I just literally drove straight through the Vielfachwerfer, taking that building on the far side of the town. Commando leader gets taken out in the open by the 232. And yeah, I've brought in like Pioneers. Moving into phase B and C. Pioneers are available and they're fantastic at the 100-meter range. Now these Pioneers, they kind of get themselves into a bit of a sticky situation in that they get surrendered or pinned down behind enemy lines. Very large chance they're going to get surrendered, but fortunately I managed to pin down both of the infantry squads that were firing upon them, and therefore, you know, surrender those Royal Marines. There's also the squad, of course, in this building, and they're going to be looking to take them out. Another unit there, again surrendering. With the command infantry now dealt with, I can quite simply like surrender a lot of the infantry as they continue to move forwards, since Schmidty failed to fall them back quick enough. Vielfachwerfer just slamming into these infantry as well, just keeping everything pinned down as much as possible. Aufkläder Panther D does get bailed out on the right side of the town here. That's not going to stop this Pak 40 from opening up onto the Sherman 5 once again. And well, another unit surrenders there as my 222 just drives through the Vielfachwerfer artillery. 222 also takes out the anti-air. And well, that's pretty much it. Finally, the Vielfachwerfers pay off. I pinned down enough of the infantry without the command being there to get some serious surrenders. And now I've just got to push through the other side of the town, which really suits the terrain of this division at this point in the game. So yeah, the whole concept of my push was quite simply using the Vielfachwerfers to consistently suppress enemy infantry that I couldn't fight one-on-one with my Panzergrens. It mainly relied on me isolating and killing the command infantry, and you can see as soon as I did find the command infantry and kill it off, mass surrenders occurred pretty quickly. These Vielfachwerfers are just really obnoxious and hard to deal with, and I think in this game it really showed. My Beuter Shermans did manage to pick off a unit of infantry before unloaded, which was nice. But what I've done here, I actually reloaded the Pioneers into a U-304 and basically used the half-track to carry them further up past the town and gain lots of ground that basically Schmidt couldn't do anything about. Like, yes, he has a Sherman too, but he can't really do anything about these Pioneers. I can just put them on to return fire, and then he can't find them. Now, lots of aircraft are overhead at this point, since I haven't really invested in any AA, or fighters for that matter. But on this division, I do have two 2-star Focke-Wulfs, so you'll be seeing them come in later on. Now, the infantry in this tree line does force me to fall back with my Beuter Shermans. I don't want to unnecessarily lose my Beuter Shermans. They're going to be accompanied by my 232 though, and yeah, that was the main reason that I brought up the 232s, was to accompany the Beuter Shermans moving forwards, because this 233 is more ideal for use with infantry. My Vielfachwerfers are moving up into position here. My recon, however, was left behind at this point. Ideally, I should have been moving that forwards, especially with these Beuter Shermans, to try and make some ground and find out what my targets were. Now here you can see both my Vielfachwerfers opening up onto both the Sherman and the infantry in this tree line. Going to have this Opel Blitz move through quite aggressively. That's going to find and surrender the Royal Marines. So there's no longer a threat of a Piat, which allows me to now push forwards with the Beuter Shermans once again. We've got 4 on the field here, accompanied by command. So there's that. I'm also getting this Vielfachwerfer even closer, as you can see. With this Sherman 2 falling back, got all the time in the world to find the kill onto that tank. Same goes up here, with Sherman 5 taking an absolute beating. Eventually I find the kill, and well, with the centre pretty much fully under my control, I'm going to move this U-304 up the road and try and cut off the left side land spawn. By doing that, I will help out Blackout against Deux, and that will allow him to start pushing back quite significantly, actually, because all of the reinforcements will start to come out from the right side and not the left, so all of this terrain is just waiting to be mopped up. So yeah, I get the U-304 there. You can see the land reinforcement point gets dimmed out, and therefore they can no longer reinforce there. And it's going to be very hard for them to get rid of that half track, at least with any units from the mid, because of all these Shermans that I have hanging about. Now, throughout the game, you may have noticed that I kept my Opel Blitz munition with my Vielfachwerfer, and I think I did a pretty good job in this game of sort of keeping these Vielfachwerfers resupplied. But there, as you can see, the Seagull Flies does surrender. And that's the first of our opponents down. That's going to be Mishka's opponent. On this left side, Typhoon AT comes in. Actually manages to pick off the King Tiger. I'm assuming the Rallies might have done that with their Panzer actually. But either way, with the Tigers and Puma coming in from the right side, De is also going to surrender, and that means the AI have taken over in both cases. Commando leader does get blown up there by the Brumbar. We also see the Commando tank busters go down. We have the Vielfachwerfer slamming these units as well. We've now found ourselves the +4, which means we're going to win in 5 minutes. So what started off as quite a slog in the town eventually got to the point where I found that command, I pinned down the enemy infantry, and I broke through with a division that isn't really built for town fighting. But in this case, the Vielfachwerfers definitely did me a lot of favours. And I think it's this kind of strategy, you can see I'm still using it moving forwards. Vielfachwerfer's now just going to try and pin down the crocodile. And although it doesn't really do too much damage, if a rocket direct hits, it does actually do, like, it just pins just enough that with the assistance of other units, we do a lot. Now there is quite a large AT gun here that I have to worry about, but pinning both the Crocodile and the Sherman 5 is a good start. I'm being pushed by the AI now here on the left side. You can see the Panzer and the SAS Grouper and the Panzer III coming out to play. But with a +4 on the board, it's not going to be too long until things are over. I've now brought in some AA as well, which is going to hopefully help me control the skies. Got 2 Flak 36s, 2 SDKFZ 72s, and assisted by aircraft we can now take out the Tempests and other aircraft that we've seen throughout the game so far. There we go, that's one example. Or the AI coming in with that Tempest. It's going to get pinned down almost immediately as it comes out to play. Pioneers do get found by the FFI saboteurs here. But this Beuter Sherman, even with its tracks wheels damaged, sits here for a very long time and does a lot of damage. Now bring in the Focke-Wulf 190G1 here. That's going to be bombing out one of the tanks, just keeping that pinned down. Focke-Wulf 190s are hanging about. Schmitty brings in a C-Fire F3. Realises it's a bad idea, tries to get that out of there, but is not going to survive today. 2 two-star Focke-Wulf 190s accompanied by 4 pieces of AA. Yeah, definitely not going to go too well. Beuter Sherman does manage to pick off the M10 on this left side. This infantry is in trouble though, as one of the Panzer guns does get pinned down, the other one just gets absolutely annihilated. It was unfortunate. The M3 half-track was able to pin that, but gets killed itself eventually. And now I have my Focke-Wulf 190s just strafing enemy ground forces. But yeah, cutting off the land reinforcement point on the left side just allowed Blackout to go ham here, and you can see he's managed to push the whole way through. Meanwhile, I'm just dealing with the AI spam into the mid alongside Schmitty, who is the last to go on the opposing side. I think Schmitty just wanted to carry on until the end, and here, well, the AI falling for my AA trap once again. Focke-Wulf 190 gets on the back, easy kill indeed. Now my Vielfachwerfers, I think one of them ended up running out of, or both of them actually, they fired their volleys and they still had an attack move order, so they ended up accidentally moving towards the enemy and getting themselves killed, which was really unfortunate. Especially considering how well they did throughout the game. But it happens, and it's just something to keep an eye on if you're playing yourselves, guys. It's an easy mistake to make. If you like fire position with an artillery unit and it's out of ammunition, it will just suicide towards the enemy. Pack 43 here on the main road. I've eventually sort of got that to the front line. That's now going to be trying to clean up some of the heavier armoured units. You can see it's going to take out another M10 there. I think I previously took out another tank there as well, which was a Sherman. And my Beuter Sherman eventually dies as well, and you can see the AI is desperate to try and get rid of this U304, but with Blackout arriving on this left side I don't need to worry about that too much anymore. We're on a +5, 12 seconds remaining, coming in with a Focke-Wulf 190 G1 to try and bomb and maybe try and surrender some of these units. But as the bomb's about to land, that is the end of the game. And that's going to be GG in 27 minutes and 47 seconds. So we jump over to the team scores. We got 2,200 kills to 1,100 losses, which is exactly a 2-to-1 KD. It mainly came down though to those Vielfachwerfers throughout the game. They didn't credit themselves for many kills, but keeping them pinned down and allowing my own infantry to win against forces that should have been superior was really, really good. So you can see my Panzer ended up winning against infantry that they probably shouldn't have, and they traded very, very well throughout this game. So taking out like Commando Fusilier Marines and the Commando Assault is just really, really good for a Panzer, when ideally Schmidty wants to see 2-to-1 KDs on his Commando Assaults. This Pak 43 did well for me throughout the game, picked up the Sherman 5 and M10 later on. 222s also did a fantastic job. This one killed off plenty of infantry and also the AA on the left side of the town when it broke through. Beuter Shermans, they also showed their worth. I believe this was the one that got the track damaged. It sat there and it killed like so many tanks as they came into line of sight. Eventually got itself killed though. One of my Focke-Wulf 190s picked off a couple of air targets. But yeah, those Vielfachwerfers certainly turned the tide of that town battle in my favour, and I made a Panzer division win out in close quarters combat. So yeah, with strong micro on artillery, I think that's always possible. You can do that with pretty much any division, as long as you are attentive and you make sure that your artillery is always on target. It's easy with the Vielfachwerfers because they sort of hit an area, whereas with like a mortar or with like 25 pounders and stuff, you have to be a bit more sort of precise and make sure that you're hitting any targets that you want to more specifically. In terms of my losses, a lot of it came actually from these commando tank busters. They were a real pain in the ass for the first half of the game. Later on, I had my recon in position to deal with them, but you can see they did do a lot of damage, taking out my Beuter Sherman there. This one 222. This one took out another 222 as well, a couple half tracks in there. The Jagdpanzer only took out one of my U304s in the end. That was the one that was fighting Blackout on the left side. But yeah, I don't know. Not too bad on the losses side of things. Just the commando tank busters made it a bit more difficult than it needed to be. And also the fact that Schmidty kept his command infantry hidden for a long time really made things difficult for me. But in the end, didn't matter. Managed to break through. And that is all. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the replay. I thought it was an interesting one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.